Okay, well, let's move on down then to the next section called Promotion and Preparation Materials. The materials available to assist in promoting registration prior to class and others to help to organize the administrative detail of the class are all in your manual here again. They're on the CD so that you can, and they are Word documents, and so you can open them up and you can edit them because you're going to have your specific class information and costs and everything else on there. But we're going to go over those, and you can create your own. I mean, you don't have to use these, but we're trying to make this as simple as we can for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, if you want to make your own, that's fine, but if you don't, here they are. So let's see, one more of the three. The sample flyers and presentations, I just said that are the templates. And there's another video. Okay, let's go through those things down at the bottom, those bullet points. The first one is the course content, and if you turn the page, you already looked at that. That's your IOTC host kit that has all of the details of the class on it. That's in full color, and as Pam said, all of these things you can email and share with other people to send out to them. The testimonials, you saw that. Again, you can send those out or just use them to read. If you continue turning the page, the next thing that you're going to find is on page, what page is that? 22, that would be. You've got a sample promotional flyer that's church bulletin size. It's cut in half there. You'd have to put your own information in there, but that's suitable for that size or just a smaller one. The next page, page 23, that one is where I took the wording from when we were describing what the course is about. That is also, it's very pretty when it's in color. It's kind of dull in black and white, but it's in color on your CD. When you download that one, again, you can edit it and put your personal information in there for your personal class, and you can print them out or you can email them, however you want to do that. The next page after that, if you keep turning, is the first one is the registration information, name, phone number, email. And it's your choice whether you want people to send you checks beforehand or whether you want them to just pay the night they come. Because the materials cost more now, it might be wise to get that money up front, but that'll be your choice. The next page after that is the actual attendance sheet. People do have to attend 10 of the 12 classes in order to graduate, so you do need to keep attendance, and there's a template for that. Continuing, the last thing that's listed on page 19 at the bottom is what Pam was just asking about, the optional video list. You can email links to those videos that we just watched to anybody that you want to invite to class. And there's a third one called What Makes You an American. And they're all dynamite. You can use those to promote. Okay, let's turn now to page 26 and look at the preparation timeline. I'm not going to go through all of that with you, but just know that's something to really look over carefully for what has to be done when. You know, how far ahead of time you need to figure out the different things, and it's all set out in detail for you there. You can read. We're not going to go over all that. I will go down to the last one. 1 to 2 weeks prior to your class starting, the last bullet on there actually says include an optional video link. When you send an email to remind people to come to class the first time, put a video link in it, because that's going to intrigue them even more and make them more excited about coming to class. And that's a great, the third one on there. It could be any of those three, but the third one's a good one. Okay, now let's go to page 27, because this is about you. It's about your personal preparation and keeping yourself educated and updated. I understand that a lot of people are really intimidated about leading these classes because you feel like you don't know enough. Well, trust me, you probably know more than everybody in your class. And even if you don't, that's okay, because you know the answer is, there's 3 words. I don't know. But the next ones are even more important. But I'll find out. You know me, and I know people at the IOTC headquarters and constitutional attorneys. And so don't be afraid of any questions that come your way. Just be honest. If you don't know, tell them you don't know, but then go find out. So, but these recommendations here will help you to stay on top of things better. The first one, if you have not already, please, please, please subscribe to the IOTC newsletter. When you go to the AmericanView.com, the website we keep showing you on, one of the things on there says newsletter subscribe. All you got to do is click on the button and put in your email. There is no cost, and you will get a once-a-week newsletter that includes constitutional commentaries that are 3 to 5 minute videos that are going to relate a constitutional principle to a current event. It is dynamite. It really keeps your skills honed for seeing where this fits. There's also going to be articles and other videos and updates on the IOTC there. It's a whole newsletter. You can look at what you want to look at, don't look at what you don't want to look at, but those videos make it so worthwhile to keep you grounded and understanding what's going on constitutionally. Second recommendation, subscribe to the American Policy Center DeWeese reports. These are email reports, and they center on Agenda 21 and sustainable development property rights violations, particularly in your local communities. This man has materials for unmasking and overthrowing these regional planning commissions that are popping up everywhere. And again, there's no cost, I don't think, or if there is, it's a very minimal one to subscribe to that. Very important information to keep yourself on top of what's going on in your local communities. Third recommendation, we all need to be better versed in our own American history. Alexander Solzhenitsyn was a survivor of a Russian gulag, and he said, if we don't know our own history, we will simply have to endure all the same mistakes, sacrifices, and absurdities all over again. What a quote. I can't think of a better tool for learning our American heritage than Bill Federer's American Minute. Have you guys heard of him? Okay, well, if you haven't subscribed to that, it's a daily email history lesson. They are beautifully illustrated with color pictures. They are loaded with primary source quotations and fascinating stories. And they're free. The worst part is it'd probably take you a 5 to 10 minute investment of your time on a daily basis to read them, and so you kind of can fall behind sometimes. But if you're overwhelmed, you can delete them because you're going to keep getting more. They are great, and I save them, and sometimes I forward them because they're so good. So those 3 recommendations will keep you closer to the top of your game with knowing what's going on historically, as well, what went on historically, as well as what's going on with current events. Let's see. You may wish to subscribe to other constitutionally grounded organizations, email updates to stay abreast of current events from the right perspective. There's a whole bunch of them listed on page 211. If you want to just quickly turn way to the back of your book again, hold your place on 27, but turn back to 211. It's entitled Constitutional Resources, and most of these, they're listed under categories. You notice we've got education, environmentalism, and immigration, law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. Most of these are going to be mentioned as we go through the course because we're going to equip these students to get involved. Nobody is going to come out of this class and say, what can I do? If they do, they've been sleeping, okay? Because there's and these organizations that are listed at the back, it's not by any means a complete list, but the ones that are listed here are constitutionally grounded. And that's very important because when people call themselves a conservative organization, that means different things to different people. And you want somebody that's constitutionally grounded, and each one of these organizations will be. So that's, if you want to subscribe to anything else, you might check out these various websites. But those 3 are the top recommendations. Okay, turn back to page 27 again, if you would. And we're going to look at class prayers. We are huge advocates of class prayer because we desire God's blessings on our efforts, and we're also following the examples of our founding fathers. However, we realize that some hosts may not be entirely comfortable leading a prayer in the front of the group. So we've included a suggestion for both opening and closing prayers, and they're just models, okay? You can use them. They contain elements that you may want to stress when you pray. We also not only recommend but encourage each instructor to pray from their heart to lead their groups, or if you want to ask somebody in your class to open with prayer, if you know they're comfortable with it. Don't put them on the spot. Talk to them about it ahead of time if you want to do that. But we strongly encourage, opening and closing with prayer, and those suggestions are there. Turning over to page 28, graduation certificates. The students are required, as I said, to attend 10 of the 12 lectures in order to qualify for that certificate. And there's a student information sheet, which we're going to be going over in Lecture 6. And it's a document that the IOTC uses to prepare their graduation certificates so that their names are printed the way they want them to be. And this information here then gives you where to send those classes to and send those sheets to. And we'll be seeing that as we get into the manual too. But there's a mailing address there. You can also just email the information, but we'll cover that when we get to Lecture 6. But that's about your graduation certificates. Now, graduation events. The events for graduation can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be, all right? If you just want it for your class alone, because it's just a little class, that's fine. You can just hand out their diplomas and maybe watch an extra movie or bring in some finger food or whatever you want to do. But if there are other classes in your area, we've often had here in Ohio group graduations, because we've had, anywhere from 2 to, I think one time, 18 different classes going on to participate in a larger event. And if you want to do that, you have several things that you can do. I put down here another option. If your group is large enough, we encourage you actually to put together a small program of 1 or 2 constitutionally grounded local teachers or speakers on a hot topic, with the option of a third speaker, maybe even to include one of the IOTC speakers that are listed at the website. The IOTC speaker could present the certificates, if you like, to the students and give a talk on passing the baton or multiplying the message. The program can end with lunch. They're tremendous events for learning, for networking, for figuring out what people are going to do from there. And we even open those up to the public so that they can also be promotional materials for your next class. Somebody who hasn't taken the class can come and hear these speakers and want to come. So I think that's what I put. Lunch at the end, as I said, provides for networking. Okay. One more great program. We've just got 2 little paragraphs on it down here. The American Clubs. The American Clubs are the IOTC after-school program for high school and college-age youth. Getting the truth into the minds and the hearts of this next generation is absolutely crucial to keep our God-given liberties. The American Clubs emphasize the significance of the American view of government and teach the students their American heritage and original intent of the Constitution. We've written an entire manual on how to start American Clubs, who you need to contact at the school, who you need to have as a student to go in with you, teachers, etc. It's all online at the website there. And the first thing we do with the American Clubs is teach this course. So these materials that you're going to be going over are the same materials. If your heart is for young people and you want to do an American Club, these are the materials that you would use, but you'll need a little bit different approach because you have to go through administrators and file some paperwork and everything else. That's all available online so that you know that. Just a quick example, I got to use this, of how we peel the blinders off of kids by asking questions. Massey Campos is one of our leaders. And I was with him at Dayton Christian School a couple months ago. Ellen was there with me. And instead of just lecturing, we love to ask the questions. We went in front of the kids, and Massey's like, oh, man. And you got to know Massey. He's just this ball of energy, okay? He's like, what do you guys think? And I'm sitting in the back of the room and watching him. What do you guys think about this free college tuition? And they're like, oh, yeah, man, that is so cool. Yeah, oh, boy, yeah, we're excited about that. And then Massey just looks and he says, I've been thinking. He says, where are they going to get the money for that? And it gets quiet in the room. And the kids started looking at each other. And the one kid finally said, well, it would have to be tax dollars. And Massey's like, yeah, you're right. But whose? And then it got even quieter. And they were starting to fidget in their seats and squirm around a little bit. And one brave soul finally said, ours. And all of a sudden the enthusiasm wasn't there anymore. That's the way to teach young people. That's the way to teach anybody, but especially young people. Those kids are not going to be excited about free tuition anymore because 3 questions took them to the truth. All right. Anyway, that's the American Clubs. And then, of course, we've got the pastor seminars as well. Let's see. Okay, we're going to start to go through lecture 1 just a little bit, and then we're going to stop to and I'm going to have you go get your lunches, and then we're going to watch lecture 1 while you eat. So we're being taskmasters here. We're going to keep making you go. Let's plunge in. Any last minute questions before we head into the actual teaching? I hope this is good. You're not falling asleep. You're really getting everything I'm saying. Okay, this is good. Okay, turn to page 29, and let's start to go through an actual lesson. At the top, I'm just going to read through this rather than try to repeat it. You're going to find as we go through here, every one of these is going to be set up in the same pattern. So first we've got the overview. The DVD lecture number 1 is entitled An American View of Law, Liberty, and Government. In preparation for the class, the teacher or the host should watch the first 45 minutes of Ricky Pepin's Multiplying the Message DVD. You already watched the first 20, but I want you to watch 25 more of it. This will greatly assist in learning how to present these lessons in the principal approach format of defining terms, asking leading questions, etc. And a note on this is it's very important. That DVD was made in 2010, okay? And these are new materials. So please know that as you're watching it, there's going to be different articles and different examples than what you have in your 2016 host manual. However, the teaching method is very useful to watch, and so that's why we're recommending you look at it. The third bullet, take time also to listen to Lecture 1 DVD and then read this host manual for Lecture 1, taking particular note of the essential points and the principal approach points to ponder, and then you can shop to determine any optional videos to include in class or as homework to emphasize key points. Suggested videos are going to be listed, and if you just want to stick with them, that's fine and dandy, but you can also choose your own, and especially if you see some in there that are really good but they're just too long for your class time, send them as homework assignments. People love to watch YouTubes. Okay, next thing, under essential points. Now, this is an important part. This right here is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we go deeper. The student manual is going to have the general objectives, and these are going to be different, or they're going to go deeper, but they're still going to match. It's still going to be the same stuff, but it's going to the next layer of whatever they're teaching in that class. And that's where we're going to hit. These are the points in every lecture that we're going to be going deeper on as we get into it. For example, in Lesson 1, we're going to teach the true purpose of government as stated in the Declaration of Independence. We're going to define the laws of nature and nature's God historically, and then we're going to apply them currently. We're going to understand pretended legislation as found in the Declaration. And once again, there's that reminder again, please download these optional videos because we're going to be using them throughout the class. The course introduction and administration. As you open your class, if you need to, introduce yourself. Give a little bit about yourself and who you are as regards to the IOTC, or about how you just learned about history after you got out of school, whatever relates to you. Just introduce yourself a little bit. Make sure that you're taking attendance as you give out the workbooks. Collect any necessary money if you haven't gotten it already, and explain the future attendance policy. And figure out how you're going to do that. The attendance record, are you just going to leave it at the back door for people to sign in as they come, or are you going to have an administrator there to take charge of that, to check it off as the people come in? But just make sure that they realize that they have to make 10 of the 12 classes in order to graduate. Open with a prayer and pledge. The same way, again, not because we're a right-wing extremist or a religious fanatic, but because it's what our founders did. And it's what they do today, in Congress and in the Supreme Court. Follow it with the Pledge of Allegiance. Make sure you've got a flag if you want to do it. Again, that's up to you. And then under talking points, this is their first class. And so we want to prepare their minds and hearts to learn what it means to be an American. We want to inspire and validate the importance of what they're about to learn and help them to identify personally with their own history and goals for the future. And you'll see throughout here, I'm talking to you as you read this. I have suggested scripts, or I have leader let host say, or something like this. So it's written out for you. You don't even have to make it up, although you can. But if you do, make it say pretty much the same thing in your words. Welcome to the Institute on the Constitution. Why did you sign up for this class? Just to learn the Constitution or to learn a little more history? How about learning your place in history? How about you making history? Let's connect history to you and to your future. Now, this is where the principal approach begins. You're going to ask them questions, and you're going to wait for them to answer. But keep it short. You got to keep the class moving. The leading question, anytime you see leading question, that's principal approach. Number one, ask the class, what is it you hope for yourself, for your family, for America? What do you want your future to look like? What's important to you? Let's look at this generationally. And then go to, are there any grandparents here? And have them share for a couple minutes. Why are you taking this class? But just a real little snippet. How about parents? Do we have parents here? They're going to tell you the heart of what they want for their kids. If you've got any young adults, you might have to help them with this because they have a hard time answering questions and thinking because the educational system does not promote thinking today. Whatever they answer, the comment that's down here is going to apply, which says, under comment, all of these hopes and dreams for your future relate to freedom. Freedom to pursue happiness, freedom to make individual choices regarding your family, education, ownership of personal property like a home or a car. So the next question is, what's the single biggest factor in your life that will determine your freedom to be able to pursue these dreams of your future? And the answer, which they may not know, give them a minute, they might be able to figure it out, but it's actually the type of government in a nation. It's the law of the land. And what is the law? That one they better answer. If they don't, that's why they're at class. Number 4, do you know what the Constitution says about your freedoms, your rights, and about our form of government, what makes you an American, and how that relates to government? And at this point, you can also watch that short video if you want to, what makes you an American. We're not going to play that right now, but that's a great place to plug that in. Then you can make a comment after that, and then the next question, leading question, what is patriotism? And we go through and tie that together. There's comments afterwards. As you can see, it's a script. I mean, it is all written out for you, just line upon line as you go through this. And comments after you make, after the students share whatever they're sharing. Turn the page again, letting them know, yes, we use the Bible at the top of page 32, but we use it as a textbook in its historical context. We are not here to change anyone's belief system. And the truth is, you can't teach our founding era documents without the Bible because it's what the founders used as their standard. And George Washington actually said it's impossible to rightly govern the world without God and the Bible. Now, continue to share these points with the students, and you're going to tell them this is how we're going to teach you. You know, we're going to send you articles about constitutionally focused groups. We're going to provide handouts and emails that have been fact-checked to be certain that they are accurate. And that 4th bullet is super important. Emphasize that these education and action opportunities that we will present to them and everything in this class is focused on learning and adhering to constitutional principles, regardless of party affiliation. Then let them know, and Holly, I'm finally getting to your question. The emails, weekly email, article and discussion. There's 3 articles, you saw that on the CD, you saw that in your manual here, that are attachments to the students, and these will go after class, because the first time they come, we don't want to hit them with this until after class is over. And remember, they're on your CD. The emails for subsequent weeks will be mailed before class. So this time, this first week, they're going to actually receive 2 sets. They're going to get week 1 from you, then give them a couple days or so, and then send out week 2 to them. And then from then on, they will receive those emails before class. And there'll be instructions with each one of them. Some of them we're going to ask them to bring copies to class because we're going to go over them. Others we won't, but that will be cleared up within your manual here. I'm not going to go over this one, but just should Christians be involved in politics? If you want to just turn to page 39, just one page over. There's your article. And notice at the top it says email article 1.1. So there you've got it in your manual to go over as you're reviewing it a little bit in class. Turn the page again and you'll find email article 1.2. Those are the things that you're sending home to them this week. So all of the emails, with the exception of 4 really long ones, are in your host manual. You're going to send them to students, but you're going to have them right there to go over when you're in class as you need them in your book. Okay, going back to... Okay. I am on page 34 now. And I'm not going to go over all of this, but it's just telling you how to go through class 1 and what homework assignments you're going to give to them, explaining to the students, taking them through the student manual and how it works. The recommended, at the bottom of page 34, the note for the host, the recommended test questions procedure. We do recommend that the students complete the review or fill in the blank pages as homework. We'll go over some of the multiple choice. Remember, there's 3 kinds of questions. There's the fill in the blanks, and we recommend they do those as homework. You don't have time to go over them in class. The first week, it's going to be after class. Second week and after, we actually recommend they fill those in before they come to class, because it will help them understand what they're seeing in the video if they do it ahead of time. But for this first week, let them know that's a homework assignment to fill those in. The answers are in the back of their books. We will go over some of the multiple choice test questions and some of the true or false during class. And this is where we're going to use the principle approach to begin teaching the students how to think through some of those important biblical governmental principles. And for a quick reference again, so that you don't have to be flipping back and forth, we made the manual this time. If you will turn to page, I'll get there in a second. Page 42. The last pages of every lecture, 1, 2, 3, 4 of every lesson, are going to be the test questions, the multiple choice, followed by the true or false, with the answers right there for you in your manual, so that you're not going to have to go back and forth. You'll have everything you need right in this one book to be able to go through with them. Okay? And that's what we will be referring to, that, going back and forth. Now, come back to page 35 again. Here's the heart. Principal approach points to ponder. As you take the class through these weekly test and true or false questions answers, some are going to be selected as a springboard to emphasize important principles. These selections will be set out in detail within this principal approach points to ponder, along with leading questions to take the students deeper. Feel free to review as many questions as you like each week, but be sure to leave sufficient time to cover the principal approach or essential points as they are written out, because these are the foundations. This is where we want to lead them. And these points that you're going to find here are going to correspond with the essential points that were listed on the first page of every lesson. So you'll be able to go back and forth to see those. The first week, just briefly, we're going to go over the purpose of government. Let's do one so you can see it in action, okay? Tell your students to turn to page 27 in their student manuals. If you want to do that, you can do that in yours, just so that you're following along. And these are true-false questions. Let's do that. Okay, once they're on page 27, I say take them through questions 1, 5, 6, and 8, which all refer to the purpose of government. Now back to your host manual under key point. Here's another error that you need to correct if you didn't get your errata sheet. It says these 3 true statements, parentheses number 6 is false. That should be number 5 is false, sorry. So 1, 6, and 8 are true. So these 3 true statements and number 5, which is false, indicate that the 3, now notice you're telling the students this, that I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Ask them question number 1. You know, one of the purposes of government is to maintain order so Christians and others can practice right living. Have them answer. Ask them question 5. Don't go through it, just ask the ones that are written in your manual. Skip to question 5, read it, make them answer. Go to question 6, read it, make them answer. Go to question 8, read it, and make them answer. Then, after they've answered them, you tell them, and this is in your host manual, these 3 true statements and the 1 false indicate that the 3 main purposes or principles of government is to maintain order, restrain the exercise of sin, and enforce God's standard of right and wrong. Okay, you've made your point where you're going. Now, leading question, would any of these three purposes include providing goods and services or finances, monetary entitlements for individuals? And of course they wouldn't, but they have to answer that. So leading question number 2, where did this idea of government's purpose originate? Now you're going to take them to founding documents, which are in the back of the student manual. And it says to have them turn to page 222. It should be page 223. We're off by one there. And find the Declaration of Independence and together read out loud. Now I'm reading this right off of the host manual. Together read out loud, beginning with paragraph 2, together with them. Have them read. We hold these truths to be self-evident, blah, blah, blah. And read through, too, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Stop. Leading question number 3. What does the Declaration of Independence state is the purpose of government? Make them answer you. They just read it from the founding document. You didn't tell them. The document told them. And then you can reiterate after they answer that this is describing protection of rights, not provision of services. The next one, taking the students back to page 27, ask them true-false question number 2. Notice I'm not doing these in order because I'm just hitting certain points, which refers to Blackstone's teaching that municipal law must conform to the revealed law and the law of nature. And after they read that, or answer that, the next question is, what is it? What is that? The laws of nature, revealed law and law of nature, and what did Blackstone mean? And then I'm on page 36 now, you're going to use that as a springboard to teach the class that the Founding Fathers studied Blackstone's writings on common law, and what Blackstone refers to as the revealed law of nature is what the founders called the laws of nature and nature's God. You're going to take them back, and it says it here right again, have them turn to page 223, sorry, not 2, and read together the opening paragraph, when in the course of human events, until you get through to the place where it says the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, and then stop, and then continue, and tell them our founders used this phrase as the basis of all law. So the next question is, so what are the laws of nature and nature's God? Because if we can't define these terms, we can't understand the very nature and foundation of all law in America. So let's break it down. And then you're going to take them through defining it according to Webster's 1828 dictionary. You're going to use an example that talks in there about the laws of nature of a 2-year-old swiping a toy from somebody, and he runs. Why does he do that? Did he read in the paper that morning that it was wrong? Did he hear it on the radio? I mean, his little God-given conscience told him. Little ones know. You're going to give them examples, as you can see, not from founding documents, from real life, to understand what these laws of nature and nature's God are. Continuing through, I'm not going to go over the whole lesson, but hopefully you're getting the flow of how we're using the questions in the student manual as the springboard to teach the deeper principles. And we're going back and forth between the founding documents to do that and Webster's 1828 dictionary to do that, and we're bringing connecting all of the dots until they're going to understand by the time they're done with this lesson that you are creating a foundation on which the rest of this class is going to be built upon. I got ahead of myself because, okay. Back on page, it doesn't matter that much, but it does. Turn to page 33, I'm sorry. After you've overviewed the student manual and told them about the emails that are going to go out, that's where you're going to show the DVD. And I want you to notice in the bold where it says Lecture 1 DVD Homework and Review Questions. Underneath that, you're always going to find a note there that says start the DVD within 20 to 25 minutes, start the DVD within 10 to 15 minutes. This is your track, okay? So when you're preparing for class, kind of go over these things and figure out how long it's taking you, because if you're further than that, you're in trouble. So try to, always look at that as your guideline, and then it has how long Lecture 1 is. We're going to take just another 5-minute break, let you go to the restroom, and Lisa, the lunches are here. Where are they? Okay. I don't know if you heard that, but I'll repeat it. Go out the door to the right. The lunches are there. They have your names on them. They should be all set. Pick it up. Make your potty stop if you need to, but please come right back in, because while we eat lunch, we're going to actually watch Lecture 1 so you can see how much they've been changed from the original ones, okay? Thank you, guys. So you could see in the lecture, again, he's following the student manual with an outline very, very closely as they go along. And then afterwards, you're going to come in and use your host manual, as I started to demonstrate to you, and it's actually written, you know, go over questions 1, 2, 5, and 8. Have the students answer them, then say, and you've got your script to go through. And we're going to take them through defining those terms. We're going to do it again through the definitions and through going to the founding documents that they are going to read themselves instead of us just telling them about that. I believe once we get to the end, you've established the fact that if you want to turn to page 37, we talk about the difference between power and authority, of how the government tells you to, how do you reconcile it when the scripture tells you that you're to obey the governing authorities, but the governing authorities are mandating things that are against God's law. That's a very heavy question, and we address that point blank, right face to face, by defining terms again of the difference between power and authority, and then getting into what the founders referred to as pretended legislation. Once again, in your founding documents, I want you to notice too, on the bottom of page 37, it talks the essential point at the bottom, where it says, just above that, it says, civil law is valid only if it conforms to the laws of nature and nature's God. And Jake said that in the DVD, but we really want to underscore that. And so one of the things that we've done to make your job easier for you, if you turn to page, in the student manual, page 223, you're going to find your founding documents. I said 223. And we talk about grievances 13 and 19. And in the past, you had a heck of a time finding those. Thanks to Brian and Janice nagging me, we actually had, you'll notice that when you get about halfway down the page, you've got numbers 1, 2, 3, all the way through, continuing to turn 27. We numbered the grievances for you. So you can find which ones are which. And when we tell you to look at 13 and 19, the students are going to be able to go right to 13 and right to 19, and you're not going to have to waste time trying to find those phrases about pretended offenses. So we've basically told them, if you want to turn to page 38, at the end of this lesson, under conclusion, which is in the middle, top middle of page 38, that our founding fathers knew that the King of England was making up laws and offenses, and these were pretended because they didn't meet the criteria of the laws of nature and nature's God. And here's the application today. And there you go with the legislative. Any laws passed outside the boundaries of the laws of nature and nature's God are not legitimate law. Executive, president, any instructions or executive orders issued that are outside the laws of nature and nature's God are not legally enforceable. Judicial, Supreme Court, any decisions rendered that do not agree with the laws of nature and nature's God are not legally binding. Those are fighting words. Yeah, when you consider where we are today and how little that's being, how widely that would be applied, and how people, our government officials, are acting outside of the boundaries of the Constitution. So you've set this incredible foundation for them in this first lesson, and it was pretty heavy stuff. And so we break for a moment here under concluding class. If you've got time, you notice I put under there, okay, take a breath, this is heavy stuff. If you have a small enough class, 20 or fewer, go around, if you can gauge your time properly, and give them 30 seconds to give their Reader's Digest version of their name, what they do for a living or did for a living if they're retired, and why they're taking the class. Because it's so refreshing to hear, oh, I'm a grandma, I hated seeing my grandkids not learning this. Oh, I'm a plumber, but you know what? I have my own business, and I'm losing it all to taxation. Oh, I'm whatever. People are going to get this great overview of all the folks that are here, who they are, and why they're here. And it creates a camaraderie because they've all got, even though they're all these different people, they've got a common heart for why they're there and the reason that they're there. And then we don't have time to play it right now, but at the bottom of this page I put, we do not have to be uniform to be unified. One of the optional videos, they have just poured their hearts out to you and to each other to tell you why they're doing this. We have an optional video called What Happened to the 56 Signers of the Declaration that's done by Paul Harvey. It's 9 minutes long, and if it will tear your heart out. I'll tell you what, if it doesn't bring tears to your eyes, your wood's wet. It's just remarkable, and it's a great way to finish the class. And so that's your first class, as you can see, is very foundational and very powerful in getting the class to work together, to seeing their commonality, and to seeing what the Founding Fathers did for them. And it's a great way to make sure they're going to come back the second week. Okay? And then you've got your emails at the end that you'll be sending to them after class. And let's turn over to Lecture 2, which you'll also be sending the emails for Lecture 2 that first week as well. Okay. All right, let's look again at the overview. I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want you again to see that every week we're going to tell you the title of the lectures, America's Beginnings, Discovery and Purpose of the Founder's Faith, and preparation for the class. Watch you watched up to the 45-minute point of multiplying the message last week, hopefully. You're going to pick that up this week and watch it to the end, and then you're going to be done with multiplying the message. But do watch that the second week if you can to prepare you. Once again, it'll serve as a tutorial for how to present these lessons in the principal approach format, recognizing that the articles that are referenced are not going to be the articles in here because this is updated, but the method remains the same, and that's what's important. The third bullet point, again, so important, take the time when you prepare for class to listen to Lecture 2 and then read this host manual of Lecture 2. Just read through what you're going to be covering, and that will just help you, including the optional videos, and that will so prepare you as you get ready for your class. Once again, looking under the essential points in Lesson 2, remember Jake is going to be teaching the stuff according to the student manual, which is a lot of great stuff, but then we're going to go deeper on some points. These are the points we're going deeper on. Your attendance and your prayer and pledge, that's the usual. This week only, on page 46, we're going to go over Joseph Sobrand's article, which hopefully they read last week, and just take a couple minutes to go over some key points, because that article, if you haven't read it before, tells you how we started with this Constitution and digressed to where we are today. So it's very powerful. And then we're going to get into reading Bastiat. Brian, are you ready to cue up the next one? Okay. With the Bastiat, one of the quotes in Bastiat is, "Life, liberty, and property do not exist because men have made laws. On the contrary, it was the fact that life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that caused men to make laws." Let's go ahead and watch this 3-minute video, the philosophy, and this is where I would plug it in here, after you've talked about Bastiat, on the philosophy of liberty, property. And go ahead and play that if you would, Brian. Okay, isn't that cute? And yet it's got so many solid foundations in it. 3 minutes and you've done. Your class is awake. They've tied it to Bastiat. And then we're moving on. Page 46, where it says the weekly email articles and discussion. This week you're going to have 3 articles. Remember, those again are as attachments that you've downloaded onto your computer. And read in your manual here, because this is going to tell you when you want them to bring certain ones to class, when you actually want them to print them. And this is one of those times when you're going to instruct them with the email that has these attachments to please print a copy of the property worksheet and bring it to class. And I would suggest that you, as the leader, bring a couple extras with you as well, because there's going to be some people that don't remember, okay? I would recommend, too, I forgot to mention this, tell your students that you really recommend, because they're going to be getting so much good information on these emails every week, including links to other websites and YouTubes and everything else, that you suggest to them that they actually create a folder on their computer to save these under, because they'll want to go back to them later and be able to, read them, send them out to other people, whatever else. And if they create a separate folder for their Constitution class, boom, everything's right there. So that's just a good suggestion so that they can get those things at their fingertips. The emails this week are the property ownership worksheet. Number 2.2 is Can a Good Muslim Be a Good American? And we're going to be, they discuss that one after the DVD. And we give the presentation of the Thread of Islam book, or if they've bought them, this is the week to pass them out. And the third email is the biblical principles and the basis for America's law. Now, the next thing you're going to see here, this essential point, is actually the property ownership worksheet answers. And so you can just read straight from this. This is just going to follow exactly the worksheet that you emailed to them. And that will, and you just go through this and go through it with them right now in class to create a constitutional understanding of property ownership as it relates to the government. What property can the government legally own? And it's going to be pretty shocking that they can't own much, even though they try to. Turning the page after you go over the property worksheet, on page 48, then you're going to show your DVD. And once again, check your time when you're preparing for class. Right here, it says you need to be no more than around 25 minutes into your class time to show this next video. Show the DVD, and then afterwards, let's see, go over the homework assignments with them, and you can read over those later on your own time. And then on page 49, I have in boldface print, note to the host, one more reminder again about the test questions procedure. If you recall, the fill in the blanks, we're going to ask them to please do as homework, but we even prefer that they do them before class. Because if they do it before, it's going to help them absorb more of the lecture as they're watching it. And then realize that you're going to be going over a few selected of the test questions and the true or false. And this is again where we're going to see the principal approach come into action to help the students think through some of the more important topics in there. And remember, it says here, for quick reference, the appropriate lecture test questions with the answers and the true or false statements with the answers are in your host manual as the last pages of each chapter. So you've got everything in here again. Now, one more time, just to emphasize again, principal approach points to ponder. As you take the class through these weekly test and true-false questions, some of them are going to be selected as a springboard to emphasize the points. They're set out in detail with leading questions and answers. Feel free to review as many questions as you like each week, but be sure that you leave time to go over the ones that are written in your book. Those are the key ones. The first one I'm not even going to go over it just because of lack of time, but we're going to use one of those as a springboard because it talks on, let's see, on page 41 of your student book. We'll just look at what it is. Lecture 2, 41. Okay, if you go through questions 1, 2, and 3 with them, again, ask the questions, make them answer. When they get to number 3, it's the barrier to spreading the gospel to Asia and Africa was, and the answer is Islam. And so that's your perfect introduction to talk about the email that you sent them about can a good Muslim be a good American, and to introduce the book to them, either hand out the books if they've bought them or take orders if they want more of them. For those of you, did you guys get, who got the errata sheets already? Did you open those in your emails? Okay, for those of you who didn't, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, at the bottom of the page, they left off the last sentence. It says it's very short and uses primary and then just dies. It should continue. If you want to write this in there, it should say, uses primary sources to teach you about Islam from its inception through to today. You'll find that on your errata sheet. So if you didn't get that all this time, realize you're going to have that in your computer when you get home, okay, on your emails. Just make sure that you fill that in. All right, and then, okay, let's take a moment to go to the emails, because what I want you to see, if you'll turn to page 52, can a good Muslim be a good American? And we're not picking on anybody. We're just presenting facts. I mean, we're trying to not be overly dramatic or emotional, but we want people to understand the truth. And if you see these questions, you're going to see it just makes common sense what they're going through. But what I really want you to see is down at the bottom where it says, please watch this video link, The peaceful majority is irrelevant. That's actually a live link on your CD, and that is a live link on the email that you will be sending to them. When you send them this email, that's live, and all they have to do is click on that. And you're probably not going to have time to go over it in class, but you might. We did include it in class if you can take time. I think it's 5 minutes long. Bridget Gabriel, if you guys have heard of her, travels the country speaking about the Muslim religion. She's going to be here in Ohio in various locations in the next couple of weeks here. Dayton, Columbus, and Cincinnati. I think she's going to be in all three. And I really recommend you go see her. The 16th of May in Middletown. I'll send out the emails to you guys so that you've got her whole agenda, because she's really worth hearing. And her presentation, again, it's not hate-filled. It's just fact-filled, and it's really powerful. And underneath that, want to know more, it says the Barbary Powers Wars. That's a link to a David Barton article. The booklet, The Threat of Islam, that we talked about earlier. And if they want to order more copies themselves, or if you want a group order, there's the ordering information. You're going to find through this that we are equipping these students not with just with information, but with resources. I constantly use the term, what's your hot button? And, if they don't know, you tell them, whatever, when you're watching TV or you're listening to the radio and a story comes on about something and you jump out of your chair and start screaming at the TV, that's your hot button. You just identified it. And so nobody can do everything, but everybody can and should do something. And so as you go through these lessons, when you identify your hot button, when your students identify their hot button, they're going to have a place to plug in with a constitutionally sound organization if they so desire, and lots of good information. So notice that is there. And then we finish the lesson, and I do want to take time for this one because it's so cute. On page 51, after we're all finished going through all of this stuff, including the faith of the founders, which in today's education, they're told that the founding fathers were atheists, agnostics, and deists. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth, and we point that out in this lesson. But Brian, are you ready to play Stoplight? Oh, you're so good. Okay, check out this a little 3-minute YouTube to finish your class with after you told them that.